Hello and welcome to the Utopia Restoration podcast. This week I'm joined by Eddie and Megan, or as you guys will know them, RetroParadyce. Hi guys, how are you doing?
Hello.
Hi, we're really well, thank you.
So for some of the listeners that don't know, do you want to tell them a little bit about what RetroParadyce is?
On you go.
So RetroParadyce started, we'd made questionable automotive choices before.
Say that.
we made a particularly questionable one when we bought a 1979 Dodge Winnebago that was listed on Facebook Marketplace for £1,000, and it needed a lot of work and it was a pretty huge project. Anyway, Eddie went down to view it himself, and we bought it. And then I said, well, wouldn't this be such a great project, you know, to document and to share and all the rest of it? And we could start on Instagram, we could start a YouTube channel. And prior to that, we did have quite a few of the cars, but it was the Winnebago that really set us off on the, let's create a dedicated channel for our cars and do some YouTubing. So that's kind of what started the Instagram page. But the story of how we've been into cars has been a lot longer, really, and starts with Eddie. To be honest, I'm just along for I'm along for the wild ride.
I mean, yeah, it's a hobby for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we thought we'd document it mainly for ourselves, really, for us to look back on in the future, isn't it?
Yeah, we want to look back and see the stuff that we got up to when we were younger, and and can't believe that we did.
That time, remember when we brought a Winnebago off of Facebook?
Yeah, I remember how that ended. You know, like
it's not going well so far, is it?
No.
So for some people that haven't seen it, is an interesting start, wasn't it? Like the Winnebago wasn't moving at all. You did have quite a job getting it out, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had to employ a transport company to actually move it up to where we are, and that's quite hard considering the size of it.
Yeah, they're not small.
Yeah, it wasn't a normal sort of car recovery truck, was it? It was quite a large truck we had to organise.
We sort of made it. Well, we didn't make a mistake. We got in contact with a local company that appeared to be able to do it, and he turned up on the morning. And then I had a couple of missed calls and I sort of called it back, and he was like, well, no, we can't take that. It's too big. And we were like, well, I gave you all of the dimensions. You know, I said it's 9.5 feet wide. It's 3.5 tons, 21.5 feet long. What do you mean? You know, so anyway, that was that. And we got hold of another company who said that they could do it. You know, we double checked everything because we'd been let down before, and they were like, yeah, that's fine. But the problem was that the brakes didn't work, so it wouldn't stop. And we had a bit of an issue when we wanted to have a look at it.
Automatic gearbox obviously moves itself when you put it in gear, doesn't it? So there was no braking at all to stop it. So as soon as you put it into gear, it would start moving, and the only way to stop it was to take it out of gear again and hope that it didn't carry on rolling.
Yeah. So Eddie had to get it onto the truck like that. We
winched it on, but it was maneuvering it out to the truck. That was the problem. Yeah.
And how much does this weigh?
I can't remember.
Isn't it 3.5 tonne?
It's a lot.
Yeah, on its own.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's dry or not, but yeah.
That's impressive. So you've mentioned you've got the Winnebago that sort of started the RetroParadyce YouTube and Instagram, but which other cars do you have in your collection?
Got 9, don't we?
Yeah.
I think we could say 9, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the number floats around, but like officially, the official number is 9.
The other one, we've got our Opel GT, 1969 Opel GT.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, you obviously see that a lot on Instagram.
Yeah.
We bought that for our wedding, didn't we?
Yeah, so that was... I mean, Eddie's been into cars since like well before I knew him. And I remember we worked together, and we used to go to work in Eddie's like 1.2/1.4, depending on what engine was in it, Corsa. And we were always almost late, like tearing down the road at 100 miles an hour or something. Don't quote me on that. And so you've always been into cars, but I never really was into them. And then we were getting married, And your dad had bought you a Viva.
Yeah, I've got a Vauxhall Viva as well, 1976 coupe. So we planned it'd be nice to have a classic car as our wedding car, and we wanted it to be something we owned as well. So obviously that was already in the garage, and we thought we'd use that until it was a Saturday night. It was only how many months before the wedding?
6
months before the wedding. We were laid under it with a screwdriver, just poking holes into every structural part of the car, pretty much.
Yeah.
No.
And that was it's a massive job anyway. Now, like, our skills have come on no end, but back then, like, it was just beyond us.
We weren't really capable of welding back then.
No. And I said to Eddie, "What's that Opel thing you like?" Because he talked about it before and sort of shown me photographs of them occasionally, and I was like, "Oh, that's quite some car." And we did an eBay search.
Well, no, I think I looked on eBay, because you always do when you're into cars. You look on eBay all the time, don't you? And other places for just have a look. And then I had seen the GT for sale, this very one, and then we decided that night to have a look, didn't we? And it was still there. So
and I said, "Make an offer," and Eddie was like, "Well, we can't do that." And I was like, "No, we can."
We blew the wedding budget, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
On that car.
I'm sure everyone understood. It was a small, concise wedding, but then at the end, an Opel GT arrives.
So. Well, that's it. It was a small wedding, wasn't it?
It was a registry office wedding down in London, and we bought the GT for it. And then, I mean, oh my God, this car needed quite a lot of work. It had no heating, no sound deadening. The exhaust, did we sort the exhaust out before?
I think I managed to fit a silencer to make it quieter. It was so we planned to drive this to London from Scotland and then onwards for a honeymoon into France. And it had no silencing in the exhaust system, no sound deadening, no heater. And it was it end of October, start of November?
Yeah.
So it's cold as well. So we had all that work.
Our ears would have been ringing. They'd have been like, "Do you take this man?" What? What did you say? So like, Eddie worked really hard to get that car, ready for a long road trip, and it's such a great car. But that was really what got me into. That was what really got me into cars. I really liked the classic element of it. You already had the Astra. Yeah. You've got a B204 engine conversion. It's a Saab engine in an Astra.
Yeah. That was my second car, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't sell it because when you get attached to a car.
Yep.
That was probably going to stay, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I bought a Mini Cooper S. I used to have a Mini Cooper convertible, and Eddie was like, didn't want to be seen dead in it. So every time I tried to go, I was like, "Oh, let's go in the Mini." He was like, "Can we go to something else?" So I got fed up of being mortally offended, and he was like, "You really need to buy a Cooper S." And so I did. I sold mine. Eddie's mum actually bought it, and it's still going. Maisie the Mini. And I bought a Cooper S in exactly the same color combination, like the cool blue with the blue roof, and that's been great. Like, that's steadily got more and more modified as I've got more into cars, and bought more bits and bobs for it.
And the Cooper S is an awesome car. I had one as my second car. Rest in peace. But it's absolutely awesome car. And when you get the supercharger.
Yeah, I mean, what a noise from something so affordable.
Yeah.
I like how they managed to capture like the old Mini in it.
Yeah.
It's still a modern car. People obviously say, "Oh, it's not a real Mini," because it's it's so much bigger, but it is still small by modern standards, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
they seem to be shrinking on the road, especially when you compare them to the newer Minis that they keep bringing out.
I think that first generation of BMW Mini is really, really becoming a modern classic. Will do one day. Not yet, but
I'm holding on.
We think it'll get there one day.
Hope. Yeah.
No, I think 100%. They're very fun, easily to drive, quite easy to work on, provided someone's redone the power steering on it. But and they're bulletproof as well.
So. Our power steering's original on that one, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's impressive.
It sings. Gosh, yeah. What else have we got? You've got the Audi. I'm trying to sort of go in age.
Oh yeah.
But no, you got. I can't remember.
I don't know. Yeah, I've got an Audi S4, which a B5 S4, so the twin turbo V6 one. I bought that as supposed to be it's supposed to be my everyday car. It's supposed to be usable, and
it was high mileage when you bought it, wasn't it? But it's not been on the road hardly at all.
No, I've hardly driven it because
it's now whereabout they should be.
It's just caused me no end of troubles, really. Not actually been quite reliable when I've had it on the road, but
yeah,
it's rusty. And the problem is, I made the error that you should never do of buying a car in the rain and in the dark.
Yeah.
We drove the length of Scotland to look at this car, didn't we? We got there, and it was dark by the time we got there, and it was chucking it down with rain. And I looked around it; it looked fine. Drove it; it actually was fine to drive. There's nothing wrong mechanically in that way. And bought it, and it was only when we got it home we realised how bad the paintwork was and how rusty it was underneath. So made a bit of an error there, and it's still it's about 1 million pieces out there, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a massive V6 engine, twin turbo engine with the gearbox hanging off the back of it, sat in the garage, just taking up a huge amount of space. It's on a dolly at the moment, so like we have to move it around every now and again to like live around this bloody this engine.
I just need the thing back together and on the road, don't I? But we've got so many cars that I never seem to get round to it. I'm always working on something else, and it just sits there getting abandoned.
Yeah, I mean the plan is to roll that back in the garage in the next couple of weeks, and then that's going to be it in, and we're gonna. I
was thinking about that though, because I quite like to cut a hole in the floor and put the lift down into the. We've got a scissor lift in the garage, and I want to recess it into the floor. That's the plan.
That'd be a good idea.
I think that's the next project, isn't it? And then the Audi can.
It always snowballs it, doesn't it? Because then I'm like, well, if we're going to cut a hole in the floor, then we need to paint the floor, or we might take the opportunity to paint the floor. You know, like. Which we should do that.
Yeah. And then see, you never end up getting around to the car.
But this is sort of part of fleet management, though, isn't it? You know, if you've got 9 and only 4 are on the road at one time, you've still got 4 cars. So.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. You know, like you can think about which one do I want to drive today?
Which one's serviceable today?
Yeah. I can tell you which one isn't serviceable. Well, I have a Fiat 126 as well. Again, what a nightmare. You know, you buy it and it looks clean. It was in Southampton, and it had just been driven back from Rome by this guy, and he bought it through an Italian
import, isn't it?
Yeah, Italian import. He bought it through a kind of a company that kind of does that kind of stuff, and then he'd, for whatever reason, whether truthful or not, he'd put it up for sale. And originally we were going to buy a Polish one, drive over to Poland, buy one and drive it back as one of our like adventures.
Yeah, as you do, very reasonable. Going to buy a car.
Why wouldn't you?
So there was all kinds of jiggery pokery that we were going to do there, to the point where, you know, we had bought 2 ferry tickets for the 2 cars, you know, the car to go over and then the 2 cars coming back. And then I can't remember what my budget was, but anyway, it was more than doubled when the Italian 1974.
It's an early model as well, early air-cooled Italian model.
Yeah, came up. And my mum has had 2 Fiat 126s in her time. One was an air-cooled one when she was a whippersnapper, and the other one was BIS when we were kids. So I remember kind of going to school in that. So it's got like a little bit of a connection, although both of hers are red. And she was like, you can't have a white one. That's just ghouls. So I bought this, and I don't know. I thought it was a really good idea at the time. I was like, I'm going to drive it back from Southampton. And Eddie was like, are you sure about that? I was like, yeah, I'll fly down and I'll drive it back. You know, bearing in mind that, okay, yes, I was into cars at this point, but it was still very much like under instruction. And I didn't know what points were. Like, we didn't have any cars with points. Like, I don't know how a carburetor works. So yeah, I got in this car, and the level of not preparedness is told by the fact that for day 2 I had packed a white jumper to drive home in. Like, what was I thinking? So yeah,
it's now an oil stained white.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it nice like muddy brown afterwards?
I didn't wear it. The dress that I was wearing, lol, is oil stained. And then I just, you know, after day 1 of having 6 breakdowns and having to reset the points, and eventually, like,
Didn't you break down 30 miles from where you picked it up?
Yeah. And I had to get towed off the
A30.
The A30 near Oxford.
There's no hard shoulder on the A30 at that point.
So the police came. Like I phoned them because I phoned the RAC and they were like, well, it's a 2-hour wait. And I'm like, this is dicey, you know, like there was no room at all. I'd managed to kind of like coast it into where there were some cones, but the cones were just starting to, you know, when they sort of start to mark off a lane and it graduates out, it was literally at the start of the cones. So I was like, this is terrifying. And then I thought I'm gonna have to phone the police and let them know an instruction. And she was like, where are you? And I was like, on the A30. And she was like, where are you going? And I was like, Aberdeen. She was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, are you on northbound or southbound carriage route? I'm like, let me think.
Yeah, hopefully not southbound.
Yeah. I don't think much of my navigation. So yeah, I was on the northbound carriageway. Anyway, the police came and they towed me off to like the nearest service station, which wasn't that far actually. There was a guy in an air-cooled VW camper van kind of quite close who was like, came and sort of scratched his head at it a little bit and was like, it's probably your points. And I was like, what? I don't know. Like, what? But the guy who had sold it, maybe this was a sign, the guy who had sold it to me had given me some spare points and said, you know, here's a spanner and here's a screwdriver, you might need these. So I think I managed to get it started with his instructions on like tweaking the points. And I phoned Eddie, you know, like about 8 times by this point, but he was like, where's the nearest Halfords? And it was a Halfords at Leamington Spa. And he was like, well, just drive it there because then you can buy any tool that you probably need to change the points. It's like absolute genius.
Halfords car parks are where the best fixes happen.
So yeah, I drove it to Halfords and I had to wait for it to cool down. So I got a McDonald's in like, honestly, I was having not a good time, and I was having
a Happy Meal just to sort of like break the vibe.
No, I did, but that's a great suggestion, and I think like next time. And yeah, so I said to Eddie, you know, like, and he was like, well, I don't know what you were thinking. Like, this is a really bad idea. You know, like, why you weren't prepared for this at all. And I was like, you know, like, I'll show you who's prepared. And I was like, that's it, I'm getting home. And so yeah, like managed to get the points changed in Halfords car park, broke down a few more times, but it was just the, you know, the points gap. And I stayed at my dad's overnight.
You had to buy oil, didn't you?
Oh gosh,
it vents.
Yes.
It was huge blow by from the pistons, venting oil everywhere out
like,
the breather system.
It could barely keep the oil filler cap on.
Yeah.
And again, you know, like
huge problem.
I totally got ripped off with this car, but anyway.
It burns more oil than it burns fuel, doesn't it?
Yes. So I stayed at my dad's at Dumfries and Galloway. He has a house there. He was there overnight, just happened to be. And then, yeah, I made it home. And I made it home by the skin of my teeth because by the time I got home, it wouldn't start again. And it turned out that the starter motor is held on by 2 bolts and one of them was completely missing. And the other one was just kind of like hanging out and it had barely engaged to start, you know, to the point where I was just like, I can't stop. Because I might not start again. And I got to Dundee and I was like, I can smell it. I can smell home. Yeah, and it made it back. But
impressive.
Yeah, it's the floor is like a sieve.
Yeah, we bought it. It was supposed to be a completely solid example, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We thought it was, and that's why we chose to buy that one. And it turned, you know, as it is with these things, it's not.
I hope the displeasure is audible.
Yeah, it is like a sieve underneath, isn't it?
Yeah. So
it had some Italian bodge jobs, hadn't it?
Oh, the patches. It's just patched from the inside. I mean, the bottom is just riddled.
It's the sealant and things.
Yeah.
Painted over nicely, wasn't it?
It's on a rollover jig at the moment, and we're in the middle of rebuilding the engine. And there's a couple of episodes actually on how far we've got with that car, and we've got sort of another episode planned on the engine rebuild. But
yeah, it melted a piston actually, hadn't it?
Yeah, that was the reason for us getting that oil. There's just honestly about 1 centimeter by 1.5 centimeters chunk out of the piston.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, and probably been doing it since the day I bought it, given how much oil it was kicking out over the back. But yeah, never mind. So that's one of the cars.
So we should have actually gone to Poland and bought one in the end, I think.
Oh, you know, I think I'm attached to Florence now.
Yeah, we've got it, as we always do.
They're so small, you can always get another one. You just like sort of pop it next to it in the garage, you know, like another box in the corner. So
yeah,
you could fit 2 in the space of a normal car, can't you?
I think actually one would take up the space of that V6 engine. So once that's back in the Audi, we can pop another car in the corner.
So I think we got to about 7 cars. So
yeah. So
I've written them down here.
Have you? What
we always forget.
The VX.
Oh, we've got a VX 220 turbo. That's been always been a dream car for me since I was a child, basically. Well, since they came out. I've always looked at them for sale, and I was looking at the prices of them, and they're still affordable now. And I thought I better buy one before just in case they go up in value and I can't afford one anymore.
Yeah.
One of those things that kind of scare myself. I thought I better buy one now so I can get the chance.
And they were built in collaboration with Lotus, weren't they?
Yeah, it's basically a Lotus chassis, Vauxhall engine. Yeah. And
considering Lotus are now ending the Exige, Elise, and Devoras, I think they're going to definitely become a true classic.
Yes, definitely. The Elise is going to go up in value really because of that, isn't it? So this is like the cheaper version, but they're just as good, you know?
Yeah.
So
arguably, I'd say they look better.
Yeah.
I'm willing to hang my hat on that and say I think they look better.
That's subjective, isn't it? But
yeah, I mean, like everyone has their favorite, and everyone's allowed to disagree. But yeah, I think especially the turbo.
Yeah.
With its extra, what are those bits called on the side that I always forget the name?
Turbo ears.
Oh,
the vents. Yeah.
Yeah, they stick out and look all aggressive.
Oh, vents are
that's cool.
Yeah.
And is that the one that I'm correct in thinking you're planning to turn electric?
No, that's the Viva.
So yeah, we've still got the Viva that needs all the welding.
That's sat in a shed, and it hasn't moved for a long time.
It's the Viva E Coupe, so it's quite a rare model. They use Frenza body shells with Viva running gear. They're like base model trim, but with the Frenza body shell. So was
it the end of the production run? So they had a load of parts to use it. Am I wrong in thinking that?
They didn't sell as many Frenzas as they wanted, so
right,
they had leftover body shells. So this was a new trim level. So they started the trim level with the coupe. Was
the E for economy?
Yeah, it's like because it's a basic trim level.
Yeah.
It was like the Ford had a trim level called Popular.
Okay.
It was the Vauxhall equivalent of that. So
I
know, yeah.
Sorry, I've made you get your Adonai down already.
About Vauxhall as well.
You're going to lose followers.
I'm sure we won't.
We had a classic car with a electric engine in. Electric motor in. So and because the Viva E Coupe, we think that goes quite well.
Yeah, that works. It's already named for it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but obviously electric cars are quite new, so getting the parts secondhand they're quite expensive still, aren't they?
Yeah. So we're happy to let that one sit above the shed. It's dry stored. It needs a huge restoration. I think once we've got our way through the Audi's rust and the Fiat's rot, and we've kind of upped, every time you do something you up your skill level, don't you, really? So by the time we get around to it, we're not in a particular rush because we're waiting to see the price of things coming down, battery technology. There's a lot of developments that can be made, and there's some people doing some really cool things with making is it the London electric cars? Or
there's a company called that. There's a few companies doing it.
They're doing it. They've done like Defenders and all the rest of it. So there's a lot to learn, and I think we can sit on our laurels a bit with that one. And then the final car is the mighty Touareg. You just With all these vehicles, you need a vehicle to tow them with. For the inevitable breakdown.
Yeah. So the criteria for this vehicle was literally a 3.5-ton tow limit. So and good value for money. We always like good value for money, don't we? So
yeah, which on paper, but I guess once we've owned it for a few years, the good value for money becomes questionable. But we bought Touareg last year, and it's been just, it's a tow vehicle, but it's been great. We've camped in the back of it, and it's a bit of an adventure wagon. So
we bought one of the highest mileage ones we could as well.
Oh yes, this is brilliant. We bought it on like 169,000 miles from a company like High Mile Garage or Mile High Garage. That was it in Wales. We'd driven down to see one in Lincolnshire. We'd driven down from Aberdeen. This is the problem buying cars when you live this far north, is that you have to travel, and a lot of them up here just end up so rotten because of the salt on the roads, because of the temperature. And so we try and buy cars from England because they're usually in better condition. But what that means is that you've usually committed to buy it in the cost to get down to even view it. So yeah, we'd driven down to see one in Lincoln, and it was just they'd power washed the engine bay, but there was still evidence of an oil leak and a coolant leak.
2 coolant leaks, an oil leak, and a questionable respray on a door. Looked really bad, didn't it? Yeah.
And we paid a deposit actually for that one as well. And it was a case of, you know, for us to drive all that way and then decide, no, we're not going to take it. So
we got it pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, we did get to be fair to them, you know, they gave us the deposit back, and it was, you know, at the lower end of the price bracket. And then we were just frantically searching in a coffee shop after that, like, well, we need to buy something when we're here because this is the whole point of the trip. You know, we haven't spent all this money on fuel getting down here in the time. And then this popped up. I think it had literally been listed that day.
Yeah.
Really high mileage. But at the same time, you kind of think when you're doing all the work yourselves anyway, you know, you're willing to take
I really enjoy a high mileage car.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're massively underrated. I think it has to be said, like, as a disclaimer, that admittedly it's not for some people. If you're not willing to do the servicing, you're not willing to do everything like that, don't buy a high mileage car.
Yeah.
Go buy a brand new one. Yeah, I just bought a 149,000 mile Range Rover for silly money, and it's amazing. Like, it's been very well looked after. Huge wads of service history. I love it. I've already done 500 miles in it in a week, just because I generally truck up and down motorways. But yeah, it's like somebody paid, you know, 60 grand for it brand new, and I paid nowhere near that. And I've got Sky News in it.
I love the light bar. That I'm just absolutely sold by the light bar.
Oh yeah, you keep talking about that light bar. You want one for the Touareg, don't you?
I'm like, do you know what we need? We need a light bar.
I haven't actually tested it out yet. By the time this podcast goes out, I will have done, so I'll have blinded everyone on the road. And the roof rack as well is like a genuine Land Rover accessory, which a lot of people can't get hold of anymore, and a lot of people want. So
super close to the roof, isn't it? And it's got the cool ladder out the back. Like
the ladder's brilliant. I've already used it to wash it because, of course, where it is, the roof doesn't get washed. So getting up on the roof was great, and may get a roof tent on it at some point. But,
well, we
nearly bought a roof tent. We saw it for sale secondhand. It hadn't been used, had it?
No.
It was a good deal, and we were about to buy it, and we thought we really should spend the money on the Winnebago instead.
Yeah, that's £1,000.
You don't need a roof tent when you've got a 9-foot wide camper van.
So we actually made a sensible decision for once there. We are making more of them actually as we get older.
That's not what we want to be hearing. We want to hear the 12th car coming along.
So that's the car collection. I think we've spent 25 minutes.
It is quite a collection. It's definitely a fleet that you guys manage.
Yeah, it's utterly themeless. There's nothing that ties these cars together other than the fact that they're probably ship boxes.
European cars, I could maybe give you that.
Oh yeah, apart from the Winnebago, that is true. Yeah,
you could go for sort of a European one.
Yeah,
we'll take that.
Surprisingly, no old British cars. That's what.
Oh, just the Viva.
Oh yeah, I'll give it them.
Yeah, because that's.
Sorry, I forget when you've got 9. There's going to be one. There's going to be something in there.
I told you, utterly themeless. There's always an outlier, no matter what you put on it.
I do struggle not to. I'm always, like I said before, I'm always on eBay looking. I do have to tell myself sometimes we've got enough. I don't have enough time to work on anymore.
Yeah, the time is the limiting factor.
Yeah.
I can understand that, especially with that many. Like, I got similar, again, buying the Range Rover. My brother was like, oh, is this like the first one that you saw? I was like, oh, well, actually, you're probably looking at them all the time, aren't you? So you probably know which one's a good one. I was like, yeah, it was the first one I went to go see, but I've been looking for 3 years. So. So you guys have recently completed the North Coast 500, didn't you?
We have, yes.
It looked absolutely spectacular. It's probably the best advert I've ever seen for Visit Scotland.
Well, I mean, the episode is yet to come out. We were going to edit it starting, hopefully, I was going to say probably this week, but maybe next week, actually looking at the to-do list. But yeah, I mean,
we were so lucky with the weather.
So lucky. Because
it looked really bad at first, didn't it?
Yeah, and the Opal isn't exactly watertight, and neither is the VX. And sometimes the VX, if it gets wet, it doesn't want to start again.
It was raining on the first day, wasn't it?
Yes.
And we'd forgotten. The Opal's got this problem where when
you forget about the problems when you've got 9 cars. You get in.
You just have like a list in the glove box. So you can get in and open it and go, oh yes, this one leaks, has a rusty.
The Opel leaks everywhere, and one of the problems is when it gets wet, you turn the windscreen wipers on, but the water gets in somewhere and makes them stay on.
Yeah.
So we forget this because we only drive it when we're at home. We only really drive it on nice days. But when we're on a road trip and it rains, you can't avoid it. And then you remember, oh wait, the wipers stay on. So you can't. If it stops raining, you can't turn them off until it dries itself out.
Yeah, and it steams up something chronic. So we'd kind of gone to plumb in the heater. And we'd wired it all in, but we hadn't added in the actual heating element. You know, we hadn't connected the coolant pipes.
This is because we disconnected the heater we went to England once in it,
and it
was
hot.
Like really hot that day, and the heating system heats the whole cabin. Even I don't know why we've ended up like this, but it heats the whole cabin even if you don't want it to.
It's just it just pumps out a load of heat in the passenger footwell.
Yeah,
and I'm not good when I'm hot. Like if I'm hot, you'll know about it. And, so we disconnected it
in a Halfords car park, funnily enough.
Yeah, actually, that's true. And so, oh god, did we try and reconnect it in the Halfords car park?
Yeah.
In Inverness. So yeah, we wired it all in because we were like, right, we'll try and connect the heat because the weather wasn't looking good. And thank God we did, because in the end we didn't end up connecting the heating. But if I didn't have that element of just being able to even blow cold air at the windscreen, it was a death trap. I could barely see. You know, you're leaning forward every 10 minutes, not even, to kind of wipe it down with a cloth, and everything's all on the wrong side because it's left-hand drive. You can't remember to turn the indicators off because it doesn't have the automatic, you know, like the thing is switch off. You can't hear the indicator going over the sound of the engine. So if you add another thing in to try and remember that you need to do, it's just overwhelming.
This is another thing we should have learned, because this happened on our honeymoon. We had to get the ferry back to the UK, and we were trying to make the ferry, and it was the most torrential downpour I've ever driven in.
I was asleep. I just decided to tap out.
You somehow slept through this, but we were on the motorway in France, and the windscreen's fully steamed up, and we had no airflow to the windscreen really.
No.
And so I had this tiny hole of like visibility through this steamed up windscreen, and the faster I went, the more it cleared, and the slower I went, the more it kind of closed in and shut off my view. So I had to go fast to keep the windscreen clear, but I couldn't see very well, and it was chucking it down with rain, and it's a classic car in the rain. You don't really want to drive very fast in that situation. But we had to make a ferry, so we were kind of pressed for time at the same time, so I couldn't go slow. We had to go. It was one of the worst drives of my entire life.
Yeah.
And even though that happened, we still haven't learned, and we haven't sorted this out.
Yeah.
So it's still a problem now.
Yeah. So that was
anyway, day one.
That was day one.
Day one.
Yeah. But it kind of cleared up by John O'Groats. And what I would say about the North Coast 500, and again, everybody has their opinions, but if your intention is to do the whole thing, I would do it, as I term, backwards, anti-clockwise, because the sort of northeast coast, you know, the kind of Wick Thurso bit, it can be bleak, you know, especially if you don't get it in the right weather. But funnily enough, actually, some of the more sightseeing-y things like castles.
Yeah, there's more castles.
Yeah, there's a lot more to kind of stop and see and do in some respects on that side. But I would kind of, it seems unfair to say, but get that out of the way first, because what you do is you top around that top section. So you've got incredible, you know, like John O'Groats. So you're looking out over Orkney and Stroma, incredible islands. And then you sort of come around that north coast bit, and you end up with the backdrop of the west coast. Kind of, you're approaching that, and you get to enjoy it for longer because you're approaching it. Whereas if you do it clockwise, you've got the Bialach na Bar on the first day, which is, you know, everyone say, oh, it's, you know, Scotland's greatest driving road, or one of Scotland's greatest driving roads. It's spectacular. It is. What an experience. But it's single track. If cars are coming down, you've got passing places.
Yeah, you've got bikes, you've got caravans.
Yeah, so it's not a driving experience in the same way that when we did the Stelvio Pass, you know, you've got a stretch.
Incredible experience.
Yeah. But in terms of a driving experience, I would say there are better roads, but the scenery is incredible, and what a place for a road. But that's kind of like not the peak, but it's the bit that everybody kind of knows, and then it's done on the first day. Whereas if you do it backwards, you've got all that to look forward to.
Yeah.
And we were really lucky with the weather because it just got better and better and better. So we ended up with that last day doing the Bialach Bar. It was hot, it was sunny.
Yeah.
You know, we could get the drone out because we bought a drone to do this episode as well.
Of course.
Yeah, I know.
Does that count as the 10th vehicle?
Yeah. Well, Eddie is an aircraft engineer and got really excited about all the remove before flight stuff, but like the propellers.
We had to fix it frantically before the trip because
standard.
Another eBay purchase, wasn't it?
Yes. Excellent.
Turned up with a broken compass, didn't it? So
didn't you guys also have to get like a pilot's license for it as well?
You have to get a flyer ID.
Yeah, you have to register yourself. Yeah.
So you do like a provisional, it's like almost like a driving theory test. You do a provisional, almost an exam online. You have to read the regulations. If your drone is, I think it's over 350 grams, but don't quote me on that.
Oh yeah, I can't remember the figures.
Yeah, so that's why DJI have brought out the Mavic Mini and all the rest.
250 for that.
It's 250, that's it, because the Mavic Mini is 249. So it brings you under certain regulations, which means you can fly within certain distances of people that are not in your group, because obviously it's the weight. If it hits somebody over a certain weight, and I think it's over 5 kilos, you then need a license, like a proper license. So between that,
don't quote us on this at all.
Yeah, like don't fully quote. We have done the stuff, but it's a lot to remember. So yeah, we have this drone now, which has been great. It's really sort of added another level to the video.
We're still practicing with it. Really. Yeah.
And we are huge amateurs. I mean, we have to stress that this is all just a hobby. And
we do it in our spare time, don't we?
Yeah, it takes up all of the spare time, but the cars and the videoing it. But yeah, it's just something interesting and fun to do, and documenting it as a way to look back on things is just great. You know, sometimes I go back and watch old episodes and think, oh, that was so. Remember that when we felt like when that broke. And the other thing about making videos is everything that goes wrong is automatically content. You know, like, if something goes wrong, normally you're like, oh man, that's ruined the trip. But when something goes wrong, you're like, this is a really good, like, what a plot twist. Like when, in fact, we didn't even video this, but when you broke down on a single track bridge in the VX.
Yeah.
On the North Coast.
The VX sometimes doesn't start. You mentioned this a minute ago.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just won't start. And I can't diagnose it. I have no idea. And if you leave it for 10 minutes, it'll start. I stupidly pulled onto this single track bridge, and I flicked it off because I didn't know where Megan was.
You can hear me coming a mile away.
The exhaust was loud in the open. I was listening for it. I couldn't hear it, so I went to turn it back on again. It wouldn't start. So I'm there on a single track bridge, blocking the whole bridge, and can't start the car. So I get out, and then somebody pulls in behind me, obviously. But luckily, it was a really nice lad, and he helped me push it off the bridge. Pushed it off the bridge, phoned you for some help, and then tried to start it, and it started straight away.
So nobody believed you then?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but I mean, I was panicking so much about blocking this bridge that I didn't manage to film any of it, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, we do find that, like, sometimes it's funny, like when stuff starts to go wrong, it is the best content, and
you almost want somebody else there to film it.
Yeah, because when Eddie's in a bad mood about something, the last thing he wants is me shoving a camera in his face. But at the same time, I'm like, do I risk it? Because this could be really good, you know, like, and you just have to, sometimes you'll get like a snippet of something that went wrong, and it went so wrong you can't film it.
Yeah, I feel that. There's some things that are like, you just actually have to deal with. Whereas if you didn't have a camera crew with you, yeah, sure, they could film it. But imagine if you turned up and this person was pushing your car off the bridge and you went, hang on a moment. let me just get this camera out.
You keep pushing it, mate. I'll film it. So, yeah. But no, a great trip, yeah.
Did you guys switch between the cars then? Or did you sort of have one each for the entire trip?
One each, pretty much, yeah. We did switch a little bit for doing some shots, didn't we? Depending on who was filming and who was taking the photos. But
yeah, once somebody's all set up with a camera in a position, you know, like just that person will do the driving. But yeah, generally we picked a car and stuck to it.
I pretty much picked the VX and stuck to it because funnily enough, it's not a comfortable car. It's quite a loud place to be, but it is more comfortable than the Opal. It's quieter than the Opal, and it's got a stereo, which the Opal doesn't have.
So and a heater.
And a heater that works properly, yes. And it clears the screen nicely, and it's luxury in comparison, to be honest. So I kind of stuck to the X for that reason. I was smug about it the whole trip, wasn't I? I
Yes.
kept telling you about.
He was like, "How are you?" Like, what? I can't hear you.
You've got an intercom in the Opal as well, don't you?
Well, it's a standalone
it's a
set of headphones, which we do use on and off. But I just put ear defenders on for that one. So yeah, just normal standard ear defenders. And so I would hear we had the handheld kind of Motorola radios to speak to each other. So I would hear the sort of comms beep of the radio, but I wouldn't hear what Eddie had said because I had the defenders on. So I'd sort of like have to take them off, fanny around, and then, you know, like 30, he'd be getting cross because I haven't responded. Meanwhile, there's a whole load of flapping going on in the Opal. And eventually I'm like, what did you say? Lisa has to repeat it. I'm like, oh, right, yes, okay, fine. So yeah, that was fine. It was good.
No, they're good because that's what got me the idea. Well, I was going to do it anyway for the sort of the rally build of the Fiesta, but then I saw that you guys had intercoms with yours, and I was like, this is actually then usable for loud cars. So that's why I put the intercom in my Fiesta as well.
Yeah, you did a proper job of it though, didn't you? Because this is radio, he grimaced, everyone.
No, his defenders are really good because I even just was driving them when we went up to the Lake District recently, and equally the same thing. My friends were in their MX-5s, and they had the radio, and they were chatting away, and I just put on his defenders for long stretches of motorway. I was like, yeah, I'll chat to you guys later. It's just not really doable.
And your ears, when you get to the end of a journey, your ears are ringing, and you try and go to sleep that night and they're still ringing. It kind of takes away a bit of the enjoyment sometimes, isn't it? So it's nice to avoid that if you can.
No, it's easily done with the loud cars. Yeah, I'd definitely say one of the things with RetroParadyce is you have an extremely nice aesthetic, be it in the garage, the cars you own, or the developments you're doing in your house. But sort of, what is your inspiration for the very nice RetroParadyce aesthetic that you've created?
Yeah, we've got a few, haven't we?
There's a few Instagram accounts we follow, isn't there?
Yeah.
That are an inspiration, yeah.
So, I mean, the house that we bought, when we were looking for a house, we basically wanted a garage with a house attached to satisfy Eddie. So it didn't really matter what it was. It just needed to have a bigger than normal garage. And we got really lucky with this one because somebody who was already a car enthusiast and had put a big extension on the back. And you know, we had all these plans. We kind of moved in that we could knock the back of the garage out, and so that the garage would be drive through, and then be able to store another car out the back of the house if we wanted to in the garden, because the driveway space is relatively limited, and it is in like a, you know, normal kind of housing estate. We are those neighbors, you know, like if you don't know who those neighbors are, it's you. That's us.
I think most people listening to the podcast in reality will be those neighbors. If you're into cars, it's probably going to be you.
Yes, our people. So but it's very easy, I think, for everything to look very scruffy when you are those people, you know, like, and I never want anything to look abandoned around the house, even though a lot of it is abandoned, including the Audi parts car that we have parked on the drive, which we don't count in the 9 cars because it's just, you know, it just sits there waiting to donate its doors. But
is this how we're keeping it in single figures? Is that then when you do get the double figure car, the 10th car, it doesn't count? Because
it doesn't count. You know, it is just a parts car, so it's just basically metal with wheels on it. So yeah, like I'm probably the one that drives the aesthetics side of things. Like Eddie's like, can we actually get some stuff done? And I'm like, no, it needs to look good.
No, it's a good thing that it looks good.
Yeah, like we work really well together where that's concerned. So yeah, we sort of knocked the back of the garage out, you know, made some nice barn doors for it. You know, there's a nice carport out the back. And what kind of, we were already kind of on this path. We went to Caffeine and Machine. When did we do that? That was when we went to Retro Rides. Was that 2019? Because nothing happened in 2020, of course. It was 2019, wasn't it? And obviously you live quite near Caffeine and Machine, don't you? So you're there.
Yeah, it's only a 2-hour drive for me, which in comparison to you guys is very close.
Yes, you know, like 8 hours takes quite some commitment. So yeah, we wanted to bolt a trip into Caffeine and Machine. We went to Retro Rides because in relative speaking, they're not that far apart. And the aesthetic and the way that they'd done it, you know, it was just so good. It felt like a home from home, but it was really car inspired. And given how much of our life revolves around cars, everything, like literally everything revolves around cars now, really. we wanted to borrow from that. And then we followed Duke of London, obviously, as well, like who doesn't?
Yep.
And, you know, the Duke of London accommodation, not accommodation, that like the actual site where he has all of the cars and his business that's run out of with the blue and everything like that. I mean, again, incredible aesthetic, and he's got it all painted kind of pink in the inside, and there's a multitude of colors. And then when you actually see on their Instagram account, like the house that they live in with the garage underneath the house, and it's, you know, pink floor, and the interior design is just excellent. You know, that's real inspiration. So
I really like the kind of 80s kind of pastel-y pink colors,
yes,
neon signs, that kind of retro. It's sort of 80s, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it is. That, and that's kind of what the RetroParadyce thing started out, you know, with the palm trees on the logo and all the rest of it, which we've sort of played with.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
That was it. Yeah. So that whole 80s aesthetic, like, oh, there's a few cool, like really cool accounts, like Poolside FM is a really good account to follow. And really, it's got kind of nothing to do with cars, although occasionally he does share. Actually, I don't know if it's a he. They share like Rio Cam, his shots. I don't know if you know Rio Cam on Instagram. It's a very 80s vibe with Countaches and other 80s sports cars and like women in Louboutins and things like that with palm trees and blue skies. Definitely kind of worth a follow. And yeah, there's a few other, the 80s aesthetic is another one which sort of has cool bathrooms and things. It's just that, yeah, it's that real kind of 80s vibe and the colors. So it's just trying to pull it all in together, because I think one of the things that Instagram has done, for good or for bad, I don't know, like for me it's good, but maybe not for everybody else, is that, you know, in some respects it's not enough now to have a cool car.
Yeah.
You've got to have, you know, there's
got to be 3 or 10.
Yeah, you know, it has to, the whole thing kind of has to kind of tie together, and I really love it. I'm up for that challenge, so we're working on it at the moment. There's definitely work to be done.
Oh, lots, always.
Yeah, you know, we started most of it, but lots to do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so speaking of cool bathrooms, didn't you recently strap one to a double track trailer?
We turned up expecting this bath to be a modern lightweight bath. Well, not to say modern, you know, it's old. We thought it was gonna be light, and the guy said, "Oh, it's quite heavy." We hadn't realized it's cast iron at all.
No, I mean, the thing is okay, I think I was on Poolside FM actually in January, and there was a picture of a pink bathroom, like original, and there was like a woman's leg on it or something, and I was like, that is awesome. And within 10 minutes I was like, pink bathrooms on eBay. And I found one finishing that day. I mean, can you imagine?
Sure.
We're in the middle of a pandemic in lockdown, and I messaged the woman saying, like, right, we live in Aberdeen. You have this bathroom in Biggleswade, which is 50 miles north of London. You know, like, if we buy this, can we bid on it? Because if we buy it, we're not going to be able to come until the restrictions lift, which is probably going to be in March. So we're several months down the line. And she said, yeah, no problem. And I was like, right, this bathroom is mine. I'm not leaving until this bathroom is mine. So yeah, we bid on it that day and just impulse bought a pink bathroom, but the description was crap in some respects, you know, like it didn't do it justice, and it cost us £87. And I was absolutely delighted, but yeah, it didn't describe anything really. So you're kind of guessing. I didn't even know if it would fit in the house. It didn't have any measurements, but I was like, we'll make it.
It will fit. Yeah, we'll have an extension.
And at the moment, what we have in there is it's like a 70s or 80s corner bath. Our house was like a time warp when we moved in. And I actually removed some palm print wallpaper from the upstairs before I knew the ways. Imagine, like,
it's original. Exactly, yeah, this wallpaper is exactly our current aesthetic.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that.
It was bad. It was bad wallpaper. Let's pretend. It was peeling. It was really cheap.
It's a decision that haunts me. But anyway, so the bathroom that we have is like that kind of 80s vibe, but it's hot. It's like a dirty cream. It's not particularly nice. The bath's cracked. Not good. So we bought this pink one because pink, just better. And yeah, we were expecting kind of a resiny, sort of fiberglassy resin like the one that's in there. And then when we turned up, this thing just weighed an absolute ton.
Yeah, I hurt my back lifting it on the trailer, didn't I?
Yeah, and your knee.
Yeah.
He smacked his knee off it and managed not to cry because he was like, I'm in company. But I think it was like one of the most painful. He went quiet for quite a while. But yeah, we got this bathroom home, and we did tow it back on the trailer on the back of the Touareg. Like, who drives like 350 miles and back for a bathroom?
If it was a good bathroom, you know.
Exactly.
So we've asked this of sort of most people that have come on, and I'm going to give you 2 questions. We'll go for the first one. If out of all of your cars that you currently have, you could only have one for the rest of eternity, which one would it be?
Well, we're gonna have to answer this separately, aren't we?
Yeah.
But you guys can't share. Like,
no,
so you can't include the other person's car.
We're not going to agree right now.
I mean, do you know, it's really hard. That is a horrible, horrible question, you nasty person. Because, you know, wow.
It's not real. It's all hypothetical. You've still got the knife.
But Opal is, you know, it was our wedding car. It's so cool. You know, like, we only have, I think, 700 and something followers. But, you know, regularly that will head up over 300, 400, 500 likes when you post a photo of that car. It's, you know, so instantly recognizable. It's so cool. It's got throttle bodies. You know, it's just excellent. But would it be the car? You know, like, genuinely, if I had to have a car that was the one that I drove every day, no, it wouldn't. It's not. It doesn't. You can't. Like, no. It would be the Mini for me, the Mini Cooper S. You know, like, I call it my pickup truck. The things that you can get in that machine, honestly.
She often goes to B&Q in it and ends up with a plant that won't fit in, and you have to drop the roof, and this plant's sticking out the top of it just to get it home, don't you?
Yes, yeah.
But then it did fit in, didn't it? Because you dropped the roof. You've got unlimited space.
We accidentally bought some. Well, no, we intended to buy the pipe for doing wheel alignment. You know, the string theory from B&Q. We've done this quite a few times actually. We walked out of the shop and then went, oh, we're in the wrong car for this. So we had to drop the roof while Eddie clutched onto this tubing.
Yeah, I had to hold on to it the whole way back home.
It's sticking out the back, which we also did recently with a water butt and the VX220 in Lidl.
Yeah, I saw the picture of that. That was some interesting positioning to get it in.
I had to get in around the water butt. We had to put it in first. Like, it couldn't come in after me. So, and I was sort of hugging it like a tree. But yeah, it would be the Mini for me. You know, it does everything. You can take it on a track. You can take it on a, you know, we took it to the drag strip. Huge fun. You can drop the roof. It's going to be relatively reliable. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it pops and bangs and whines, and it's everything you could want from a car as far as I'm concerned. But over to Eddie.
I find this question hard because, you know, for an everyday car, I'd have the Audi because it does everything for me. It's fast, and if it works, it's
yeah. No, imagine it's fixed.
Yeah.
In this hypothetical, we'll go for fixed.
It's fast, but you can drive it. It's comfortable. You can drive it everywhere. It's practical enough. You know, it does everything. So I would pick that, but I love the VX220. It's my dream car. So how could I not have that? But it'd be an awful car to drive every day.
Well, but you can fit a water butt in it. It's not that bad on space.
You've got us there.
So I'd have to keep the VX, but I'd struggle not to hate driving it every day to work. So I'd probably have to start cycling to work. So,
oh yeah, I can see that.
You get an e-bike or something when it's like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So another one then for other hypotheticals. You can either do this 2 ways. You can either do £100,000 and a 3-car garage, which makes it slightly harder, or £100,000 and any number of car garage.
Oh, well, it has to be the second option, doesn't it? Because
we're already at 9.
I'd buy a lot of cars that weren't worth very much.
Yeah,
each. It would add up. Yeah.
I mean, like, Saab like 900 turbo.
Yeah. Fiat Panda 4x4.
Yeah. You know, when
the list is huge.
It is absolutely endless. I'm just trying to, you know, everything goes out of my head. Then there's a few.
I think that, no, I'd spend a lot. I'd quite like a Lotus Carlton. But that's a lot of money. That blows quite a lot of that budget, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's ruined everything I just said about cheap cars, isn't it? Yeah.
There you go. You could go for one of those, and then like 5 or 6 other good eBay finds.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd spend quite a lot of money on getting the Winnebago going. I don't know if that counts, but
that would count.
Probably about 15 grand to do it properly, which of course is not going to be the way that this pans out. But yeah, I want that thing on the road so badly, and we're meant to be re-waterproofing the roof this weekend. Hopefully the weather holds out. Everyone needs to pray for us. But just what a cool machine. Eddie wants to put a turbo on it. He wants the turbo.
I don't know if that's one of those crazy ideas that'll never happen.
Probably. But
I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
Yeah, so that's probably, I'd spend quite a lot of money getting that done, because it's just
that's it. It'd be hard for us to spend that money on cars. We've got some cars that need a lot of money spent on them.
Yeah, we could probably spend 100 grand right now without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So you do it with 3 then, £100,000, only 3 cars. You've got to spend all the money as well.
Oh God, I don't know.
Lotus Carlton takes a lot of that money, doesn't it? How much are they? I've forgotten what they're going for now.
About 60 grand?
Are they something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's at 60 to 80.
Yeah.
I can't think. I mean, like, I really like the Fiat 124 Spider. Like, that's my only kind of bugbear is that I don't have a convertible that's 2 seats. You know, like a proper, like, classic-y little convertible thing to rod about in. My dad's no, it's your dad that's got the MG.
Well, yeah, both our dads have got MGBs.
Yeah.
Your dad's got a Roadster. My dad's got a Roadster, and your dad's got a GT.
Yeah.
So MGB Roadster would be a good car for that, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. But I'm trying to spend £100,000 here, so I think I'd probably go for the 124 Spider. Because we saw one in Malta parked up in one of their old cities, like right inside the old wall in like this old courtyard. You know, when you see old cars in hot, dry locations, is there anything better? No. Yeah, agree.
It makes you want one immediately.
So much, even when they're rusty, you know, like rust looks different in hot, dry countries. And
then you get back to Scotland and it's totally different in the cold.
Yeah, rust just looks like a lot of money. So yeah, it's so hard because I think we have a lot of our dream cars in many respects as well.
Yeah. I struggle to, the cars you said are what I'd buy.
Yeah, we're not very good at aspirating.
No, we're really not good at this.
Just give us a 3-bed semi and a load of shit boxes. And all good.
I think it was funny what you were saying earlier about when you were house shopping, looking with like driveways and garages, because I've been sort of looking recently like soon going to move out into a rental, sort of looking to purchase, and managed to get my girlfriend into this as well. And she started looking at houses. She went, "No." I was like, "Why are you getting rid of that one?" She was like, "Well, the drive's too small, isn't it?" I'm like, yes. Now we're on the correct search parameters. We need a big garage behind the property so you can make it bigger. We need long driveways. We need all this. And, you know, it's not on Rightmove and it's not on the market. You can't tick a box for it. No. That's what you need with a house shopping mentality.
Yeah, I struggle with that when I look at houses. They don't talk about the garage enough in the description. And there's usually not any photos of the garage either.
Yeah, it just gives you a garage and some dimensions. And yeah, it's usually not pictured. And I think probably our only piece of advice is that we're on quite a closed-in plot. You know, it's all semis, and then the houses behind us are terraced, and we're really lucky in the fact that the garden is actually quite big compared to some of the others. But you know, we built that carport. If you have land, you can build these buildings, you know, shelters for cars, so long as they are within, you know, permitted development regulations. So it's behind the house, it's under, I think, 2.4 meters or something. Yeah, you can probably build dry storage in a way that, you know, if you haven't got the space or the land out the back, you can't do that.
This is something we think about a lot in Scotland because of the weather, obviously.
Yeah, that's the other cost of having cars is the cost of storage. And I think I wrote a post about this on Instagram, one of my opinion pieces, where, you know, when you're buying cars, you need to think about why you're buying it and how long you intend to have it. And if it's going to need dry stored, I mean, technically an 05 Cooper S Mini, you probably think, I can stick that on the drive, but it's a cabrio, so they all leak.
It leaks, yeah, badly, doesn't it?
and they all rust. And, you know, that one's dry stored in a single garage. We rent a number of garages around here. We've got like a little monopoly going. Don't talk to us about
you driving the prices up.
About how much money we spend on garages and storage. Just don't. Like, it's eye-watering.
I'd like to live somewhere warm where you could just leave the cars outside and they wouldn't.
But even then, UV damage.
Yeah, I suppose.
You know, so it's one of those things that we've kind of learned as we've got older, is you can't just buy it and hope for the best. You've got to think about where you're going to store it.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have any other sort of like top tips for anyone else that is looking to have sort of a reasonable collection of cars, like insurance wise or taxes?
Yes. Buy it when it's MOT and tax exempt, obs. I mean, you've done this as well. Like when we bought the Winnebago, it was 1 month away from being MOT and tax exempt. So, you know, fantastic. I mean, obviously it needs to be safe. You need to do all of the checks. You know, we're in the middle of the brake upgrade. That's the first thing that we've done, is look at getting the brakes working. And we've got a load of money to spend on parts over in the US. Like, again, we're sort of like preparing ourselves for that.
The new import tax as well.
Yeah.
For the North Coast 500, I had to do a sort of an MOT on the GT, because it's MOT exempt obviously and hasn't had an MOT for years. So we give it a check over when we get the chance, and because we were about to do about 700 miles in it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I thought I better do an MOT myself.
But the nice thing about that is when it's MOT and tax exempt, obviously the tax is like a big point, you know, that's just something that you don't have to spend money on. The MOT thing is, it has to be safe, but at the same time, you don't have that stupid little things to think about, like, do the lights over the number plate work? You know, like the Opel, no, they don't. And it was a bit of a problem. We had to add, was it magnetic lights or something, to just to fit the regulations. But now you don't have to do, and there's a few questionable rust spots underneath, which, you know, you'd probably get pulled up on during an MOT, but that you're like, well, it's dry stored, it's only driven in the dry apart from when we're on road trips. So yeah, we can probably leave that for another year. It means that you're not forced backed into a corner in sorting things out that potentially
we do keep it safe for that, you know.
Massively so. Like, you have to do the checks, and then the other thing is, you know, like, we don't really do the whole hire purchase thing, so all the maintenance is undertaken by ourselves. And I would say, if you're gonna start to amass a bit of a collection of cars, you need to get handy.
Yeah, we've bought all these cars and didn't take into account the amount to keep them on the road, the amount of money or time you've got to spend. You can pay somebody else, but that's a lot of money, and for all of these cars, we can't actually afford to pay somebody else to work on them all. So then it's my time, but I don't, my you know, time is finite, isn't it?
Yeah, like we spend a lot of time together, you know, like we are like the gruesome twosome, and we just spend, you know, so we spend a day in the garage together, and it's just like spending a day together, so we really enjoy it. But we were talking the other day, you know, how I mentioned doing the wheel alignment stuff, with say 9 cars, £160 a time, you know, that's just shy of £1,000. So yeah, you have to kind of think about how much your labor rate is. And I think I wrote a post on this about the labor rates and for garages and mechanics, and how much they vary. And it can be anything from, you know, 50 quid an hour up to 235, I think. But I think that was probably for a Ferrari garage somewhere in the south of England. But, you know, how long a job takes, a clutch is cheap, but, you know, pulling the engine out and putting it all back together again and putting it back in again, if you're paying a mechanic to do that, that's going to be quite expensive.
Yeah, and it's fine with 1 car, but when you've got 9, I think when we bought all these cars, we didn't really take it into account, did we? And it's something we learned the hard way.
But unfortunately, we wouldn't really sell any of them. Or actually, on regular occasions, I would sell the Fiat, but I can't. But, you know, like, you know, you get attached to things, don't you? You think, oh no, I really want to go and buy my croissants in my Fiat. Like, so for that experience.
No, I think that's good advice. It's that sort of preparedness, isn't it, for what you're going into, and understanding that it's not going to be easy. And we've talked about this previously with Land Rovers and Range Rovers, that if you think, sure, it's going to be like owning 2018 BMW 3 Series, it's not. Like, it's going to be, you're going to have the maintenance, you're going to have the cost. There are going to be things you're going to have to do yourself, because, like you say, it's just going to be too much to get somebody else to do it.
I think one of the really good things that Eddie does is, because we research a lot about how, you know, like when you buy a Touareg, it's 20-inch wheels and therefore the tires. You think about how much these things are going to cost. But one of the things that Eddie's really good at is finding out the parts that are on other cars that are cheaper. So yeah, they list it as a part for Audi, but actually it's also a part on a Seat. And so you can find the part.
I spend a lot of time trying to find who makes the OEM part. So the OEM Audi part, for example, is made by a company, but they don't tell you who that is. So I spend a lot of time online trying to work out, because you can obviously buy the OEM part for half the price, say, because you're not buying it from the dealership, you're buying it from somebody else because it's straight from the company that make it. But that is a lot of time I spend doing that.
Yeah,
to be honest,
it's time you're not on eBay looking at other cars.
Yeah.
Maybe well spent then.
Yeah.
Darling, what is the part of it? Just to keep it off.
That's
the end of our top tips.
So what is the future plan for RetroParadyce? You mentioned you've got the new North Coast 500 video soon to come.
I think what I want to do is enjoy the cars more, get out and drive them more, do some more road trips. Yeah. You know, I sometimes get a bit fed up in the garage working on them all the time. So I actually want to get out and drive them. So I think we need to do more of that.
Yeah, I think we've had a little bit of a change of heart recently in terms of time actually is worth money. And sometimes paying somebody to do something just because you'd rather spend that time doing something else, it's definitely worthwhile considering. Obviously, like you have to find the funds for that, as it were. But yeah, the plans are definitely to get out driving more, you know, do some more episodes, keep plugging away at, you know, getting the garage looking the way we would love it to look. And I guess, yeah, no real long-term plans. Like we say, this is really a hobby, but we do think about the fact that there is the potential for it to be or become something. You know, we're developing a lot of skills, and Eddie is an aircraft engineer and an engineer, you know, by trade. So who knows what the future holds, like proper long term, but short term is probably just to get out and have a lot of fun, really, and try and record it and not shout at each other too much when it all goes wrong.
Is there any road trips that you have in mind that you want to get out and do?
Morocco. Yeah.
Fair enough. I was thinking UK, but I don't know why I was thinking that. If you're planning on buying cars in Poland.
I've gone straight to Africa.
Yeah, there was a really cool article a few years ago. I can't remember what magazine it was in. I think it might have been a Top Gear magazine, where a guy drove an Aston Martin to the Atlas Mountains. And we've been to the Atlas Mountains.
Yeah, we've been with my parents in a hire car to the Atlas Mountains.
And the roads look
incredible. Driving roads. You wouldn't believe.
Well, I imagine the hire car was probably faster than any of your cars.
Always.
Hire cars are the fastest cars in the world.
Yes. But yeah, we'd love to drive the Opel to Morocco.
Opel.
We were meant to do that. We've kind of had it penciled in for a few years, but it's quite an expensive trip. You know, it's 2 ferries. And
we want to do some more bits to the Opel first, don't we, as well?
There needs to be quite a lot of work done to it. It needs better seats for a start. We've got some Porsche. Are they Porsche 928 seats?
Yeah, I think they're called Tombstones, aren't they?
Yeah, which we picked up, which need a little bit of TLC. But the seat saga with the Opel just is endless. We've tried so many different seats, and the cabin's really quite narrow. And of course we are tightwads. That's what it boils down to. So we're always trying to find like the seat that'll fit, but without spending too much money. Like you never buy anything new.
And you can spend a lot of money on seats. Like I've been looking at some recently, and yeah, you can just spend a lot of them. But also, there's not a lot of places you can actually go and try out the seats before you buy them. So you can go and buy a £1,000 bucket seat. It comes from Poland, and you can't try it before you sit in it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We're getting on now, you know. 33 and 32. So
yeah,
act genuinely. Like your back doesn't always thank you when you get to the end of the day these days. Good grief.
So Morocco is the big one, isn't it? We've got planned.
Yeah.
But I'm keen to do some more in Europe as well.
Yeah.
You know, like back into the Alps, really.
Yeah, we'd love to do the Gotthard Pass. We did
the Stelvio Pass before.
Yeah. And we kind of did another pass in Switzerland, because you get the opportunity, you know, there's almost like 3 options when you go through the Alps sometimes. There's like the new tunnel, then there's the sort of new pass, and then there's the old pass, which is still cobblestoned and you know.
Really rough one we went over, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think, again, it's this toss-up between what looks good on camera and what's a good driving road. And we had some great times on some of the passes going over into Italy, and that was a great trip. But when we actually kind of topped over the top, you could see the old pass as well. And you're like, oh, but that looks really cool as well. So there's so many, you see all these like, is it the Bernardita Pass as well? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Somebody will be in the comments. Yeah, where they have, I'm sure, a hill climb there as well. So there's loads of alpine passes that we would love to do. And, you know, we've got a different car to do them in. So we did Stelvio in the VX220 over 10 days. And we sort of went home via the Nürburgring. And I think probably it was like 2,500 miles, and we were barely speaking to each other by the time we got.
There's no luggage space in the VX220, is there?
No.
And because we're going to the Nürburgring, we thought we'd take our helmets. So the helmets took up most of the luggage space, didn't they?
But think of all the room you can store stuff inside, can't you? You can fill them with all your t-shirts, all your.
We do have this laugh at the back. So Eddie will take tools no matter what road trip we're doing. Like, he will take so many tools, and
I took a few spare parts as well, didn't I?
Yeah, and he had them all sort of cable tied in carrier bags in and around the front, where under the clam, kind of near the radiator and stuff.
Yeah, the radiator's like flat mounted in under the bonnet on the XC20. There's no luggage space in the front at all.
No, not like a Porsche. So yeah, we had all this stuff kind of cable tied in, but we looked like drug mules.
Yeah, they looked like little drug packets.
If we'd have been inspected, like, I can only imagine, they was like, what? This is a selection of spanners. Like, what could you possibly?
It's car parts, officer.
Yeah, so that was a great trip. But there was a few issues, like the exhaust sort of came apart.
The flexi broke.
Yeah.
On the Autobahn on the way to the Nürburgring.
And then, because the heat all got trapped underneath the between the engine and the under trays, then it melted all of the cables, the boot release and the gear. The
gear cables, yeah. So the gear stick wouldn't spring back to the center. You had to really manhandle the gear stick. But you don't realize how hard it is to find a gear when it doesn't spring back to the middle.
Yeah, third was nowhere to be found.
Second to third, you kept missing, didn't you?
Yeah.
Really difficult to drive. Yeah. We also the fan didn't work. We were going up the Stelvio up to the top, and I noticed the temperature creeping up, and then I realized the fan hadn't kicked in.
It sits at about 76 degrees, doesn't it?
Oh, it's low. It sits really low, that car, yeah. And then, so I pulled over, thinking about how to fix this.
It was up at about 95, I think.
It was higher than that. It'd gone over 100, yeah. And Megan was shocked because I pulled out a wiring diagram.
Yeah, he was like, hang on a second. Licked his thumb as he flicked through the wiring diagram. And I was like,
what is that?
Where did you pull that from? And he was like, don't worry, we'll just...
cable tied onto the bonnet.
Yeah, we'll take the relay out and we'll just plug it in so that it's on or off. And
yeah, got it working, didn't we, with a bit of wiring, yeah.
Honestly, I was amazed.
That's very impressive.
So there's a load of Lamborghinis sort of like headed south down. So we're at the side of the road with all the bonnet open and everything like that. Like, oh, typical, like Lotus Vauxhall owners. So yeah, loads of Alpine passes. We want to
go back and do more of that.
Yeah,
to Europe, I think
that would be great.
But obviously, like, COVID is in the way of that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you've got a change of regs, don't you, if you want to take your car to multiple countries in Europe now?
Oh yeah, I haven't even looked into that. I know that's there. I haven't given that the thought yet.
Yeah, it's one of those. We'll cross the bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
If you've got like pilot licenses and stuff like that, like drone pilot ones, you'll be fine. I think I had a vague look at it recently. It's something like 17-page document. You need to fill in. That'll be very good. So as we start to draw towards a close, where can everyone find you on Instagram and YouTube?
So we are at RetroParadyce, which is RetroParadyce. And
yeah, Dice is spelled that way because of where we live.
Yeah, we live in a Dice, which is a suburb of Aberdeen near the airport. Chosen because obviously Eddie will always work at the airport, probably, being an aircraft engineer. And
so RetroParadyce on YouTube
as well. Yeah, nobody likes to spell it that way, so that's fine. And yeah, very simple. And we're the same on Facebook as well, so you can find us at all of those locations with our sporadic posting.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Megan and Eddie, for joining us. And everyone should definitely go and check out your amazing videos of all your cars. And everyone can let us know which one they think their favorite is in the comments below. Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. Bye-bye.